All right. Hopefully this is working. I do apologize for the technical difficulties. This is my very first Facebook Live, so if you are here, I'll give you a second to jump back on and we'll try this thing again. Hopefully the video is showing now and we'll get this thing kicked off. Wonderful. Wonderful. All right. All right. So we'll start this off in just one minute, and because I realize we're behind time, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time this evening, and we will go ahead and get through this thing. All right. So, um, so let's go ahead and get this thing kicked off. I know we're a little bit behind, but thank you for being here this evening for our Let's Talk Suicide presentation. I am Brandon Brown. I am a resilience and leadership professional trainer. I'm also a marriage and family therapist intern. And thank you for being here this evening, taking the time to learn how to help someone that might be dealing with suicide. So let's go ahead and move forward. So this is our agenda for tonight. I'm not going to read over all of this, but you can take a quick glance. These are some of the things that we're going to cover this evening. And let's go to the next slide. All right, so before we even do anything, I want to give you guys my gratitude and say thank you for being here. Thank you for having the willingness to be here to learn how to help someone else and during a time of crisis. And you never know when you're going to be able to use this training. And I know you might be saying to yourself, "Well, Brandon, how can I use this to help someone else?" But I want you to know that you never know when this training or anything that you might learn here will kick in and later on in life, because you just never know. And I have some situations in my life where I actually needed suicide prevention training. I'm going to share some of that later on in this presentation. But again, thank you for being here. You could have been anywhere tonight, but you're here with me, and so again, thank you. All right, let's get this next slide up. So who am I? Great question. So again, my name is Brandon Brown. If this is your first time ever being here on Modern Family Coaches platform, or if this is your first time seeing me online for the first time, I am again Brandon. I'm a father. I'm a coach. Again, I'm a marriage and family therapist intern, and many of you know. Some of you may not know. I'm also active duty Navy. I'm a chief in the Navy, and so I serve many roles. I have many hats. The role that I'm most proud of is being a dad and being a father to my son and daughter, Branden and Zaria. But um, let's see, here we are. So over the years, like I said, I've done a number of things. Right now, I own a personal development company called Modern Family Coach, and we help bridge the gap between good intentions and helping people to get optimal results. We've helped a lot of people over the years, and the whole goal is to help people find solutions for whatever it is that their problems are that they're actually having in their life as it relates to their personal life. And I am literally obsessed with helping people get results. If you got a problem, if there are things that are going on in your life, personal, family wise, whatever the case may be, that is my passion. So if you see me online, 9 times out of 10, you see me doing some type of motivational video or putting some type of material out there to help people to get through whatever their situation is. But again, thank you for joining me tonight. Um, I've been in this industry for a little bit now. So over like the last past 10 years, I've done a lot. As you can see up on the screen, I've won some awards. I've been inducted into the Marriage and Family Therapist Honor Society. I'm senior enlisted in the Navy, and I've trained with some of the best professionals in the marriage and family therapist industry. And I don't say this stuff just to brag, but I just say this just to let you know that I'm qualified to be here tonight. So this isn't, I'm just not just some guy that just put together something just to talk to you guys for the sake of it. So I told you a little bit about who I am. So if you will, tell me about who you are, where you might be watching this tonight, what are you might be hoping to learn, and you can just drop it in the chat, and I'll see. Hopefully, I can see it here. Again, like I said, this is my first time doing this, so if I make any mistakes tonight, bear with me. But you feel free to use the chat feature to jump in there. And like I said, tell me who you are, where you might be watching this from. It's always nice to hear where these videos and things are actually reaching people, because oftentimes I don't necessarily know people directly, but I get a lot of feedback to say, hey, your video helped me, or thank you for reaching out to me or one of my family members. You definitely made a big impact in our life. And so it's always nice to see the people that you serve, or to learn a little bit more about the people that watch these things. So if you will, I know just a sidebar, I know it's going to take some courage to actually do this, to put yourself out there, but if you do, I appreciate it, and if not, that's okay too. All right, so let's go ahead and move forward. All right, so suicide prevention goals. The goals of the suicide prevention is to reduce the factors that increase suicidal risk and increase the factors that promote resilience. And so we're going to talk about the word resilience a lot tonight. And what is resilience? Resilience is the ability to quickly recover from difficult situations. This doesn't mean we remove all the stresses of life, but instead we come up with a plan to help us, quickly overcome them and not just be stuck in that spot, or in that situation. So that's resilience. So you want to when you develop resilience, you turn your life around and you find yourself in two different places. You go from why me to try me. And I understand, when things happen to us in life, we can either choose to be defeated, or we can use the tools and things that we've learned in life to help us bounce back and to recover from situations. And that's what resilience is all about at the end of the day. Um, and I want you to write this down, or to remember this. A problem is only a problem when it's in front of the wrong person. But what does this mean, Brandon? If you're facing a challenge, and if you're having a hard time getting through something on your own, understand that it's only a problem for you because you may have never dealt with this situation before, and so this is new to you, and so you feel alone, you feel stuck in this situation, you feel like, how am I going to get beyond this? But get the problem in front of someone else that's actually dealt with it before. And so when you get the problems in front of people that actually have experience with it, you'll find out that it's not a problem for them, because they're like, you know what? I've dealt with this before. This is how you get through it. And you won't find yourself stuck in those situations. All right, let me go to our next slide here. Also, suicide snapshot. So just so you kind of get a big bird's eye overview of suicide and how we're actually dealing with it here in this country. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States as a whole. It's also it ranks number two in deaths for people between the ages of 10 and 34. So if you think about that, of everything that could happen to people in this country, heart disease, car accidents, just freak of nature accidents, and to think that suicide is actually number two for this age bracket, that's alarming. On average, a person dies by suicide every 11 minutes. And also know that suicide, it doesn't discriminate. Suicide, anybody can have suicidal ideation, and suicidal ideation is actually having thoughts of suicide. Anybody can have thoughts of suicide. Suicide doesn't care your age. where you're from, the job you have, your family background, race. It doesn't care about none of that. You'll see people that are in Hollywood that have died by suicide. So this is something that's affecting everyone across the board, no matter where you find yourself. Also, over 50% of suicides are actually carried out by firearm. So we're going to talk about this a little bit more in the training this evening. But over 50% of suicides are carried out by firearm. But one of the most important things to know is that suicide is actually preventable. So the big question is, why do some people actually choose to end their life? So there's no actual single cause for suicide. Um, some of the big things that we listed here is limited problem solving skills, feeling hopeless, maybe feeling frustrated, or sometimes feeling like a burden to people. We find this a lot with our seniors, or some persons that might actually constantly find themselves dependent on someone, and they just get to a point in their life where they just no longer want to feel like a burden anymore. Um, One thing to know about suicide is impulsive and sometimes can be a short fuse decision. Oftentimes people think that when someone's contemplating suicide, it's this long, drawn out process where they've planned and made lists and just really planned for this, and that happens in some rare occasions. But for the most part, suicide is something when someone's going through something, and then in a moment's notice they're just trying to find an out to actually end it all. And so again, suicide can't be predicted, but it can be prevented. All right, so we're going to talk about some suicide risk factors. And suicide risk factors, if you want to condense that to one word, we'll call it stress. Because there are a lot of different things that actually cause us stress in life. Stressors, you name it. There are a lot of different things. Like we have here, relationship loss can cause stress. Financial hardship, that's a big one. If someone is actually going through legal problems that find themselves in court for any reason, substance abuse can actually cause stress. We have a few more here. The actual fear of being judged, and when we look at this is you take suicide aside, a lot of people feel have the fear of being judged outside of doing things, just doing regular things that they want to do for themselves. They find themselves not doing because they feel like that they're going to be judged by people, so they decide to blend in into the crowd and actually hide out so that people don't actually see them. So being the fear of being judged is the big one. And we have one here, a can-do attitude. And this isn't the can-do attitude like, yeah, I'm going to get it done. This is the can-do attitude like, I can do everything by myself. I'm going to do everything by myself. And the thing about trying to do everything by yourself, it gets you nowhere. A lot of times people want to do everything by themselves because they've been let down in the past before. And they just decide, I'm going to take on the world by myself. And just like this gentleman, not having any support. Some people feel like they might not have their family support, they might not have their friend support. When they're going through things, they feel like that they can't talk to anyone about anything that they're going through because they won't understand. Have you ever talked to someone before and you get on the phone with them and be like, hey, I just want to tell you that I'm going through this or I'm going through that, and before you can even finish explaining yourself about what it is that you're going through, they done flipped the script on you, and now they're talking to you about the things that they had going on. You're like, dang man, how what? I thought I called you for help, but I guess okay, all right. But so support is a big one. And lastly, the fear of failure. The fear of failure has stopped so many people from actually getting started on things and actually keeping them stuck where they are. And understand that while you're stuck, life is still happening, things are still going on, and because you decided that what, instead of failing, I'm going to stay right here, life starts to move past you. Things are starting to you pass you by, and you start to get upset and maybe even a little bit resentful because things are happening and you're still stuck in the same place because you don't want to fail. So again, like I said, these are some stressors that contribute to actual suicidal risk. So one thing to understand, there's no single risk factor that can actually predict suicide. There's no one single thing like, you know what, this person was moody today at work, and so you know what, they might be suicidal. There's no one thing, but there are certain things that we can look at to help us kind of get a better picture and understand. So when the person is might be potentially in the danger zone, we talk about the danger zone being having or suicidal ideation. We can use the acronym is path warm. The American Association Suicidology came up with this acronym and is path warm. And the is ideation and substance use. Path is purposelessness, anxiety, trapped. Trapped is a big one because a lot of times people feel like they're trapped and placed, their back is placed in the corner of a wall and they have nowhere to go. They don't have any out. And so with anything that's trapped and that's trying to get out and trying to find out, your mind can become frantic, and you literally start to do anything to try to find it out. And so trapped is important. Hopeless, when there is no hope for a person, a situation can really get dangerous. Life becomes really shaky for a person at that point when they feel hopeless. And so we look at warm, withdrawn. The person's not the same anymore. They're not engaging with people like they used to. Anger, they might be quick to get upset. They're angry about everything. You're like, well, dang man, I was just asking if we had any more refills on the coffee. That's all I wanted to know. A person might start to become reckless, doing things that they wouldn't normally do. And again, we talked about those mood changes. And oftentimes, like, a person will be displaying these one or a number of these types of behaviors. But what happens is you'll find that people fall into one or two categories. They'll say that, oh, this is just who this person is. They're always like that, and so they don't actually get involved and ask the person to reach out to them and say, hey, are you okay, is something going on? They say, well, that's just how they are. And the second group of people, they are the that's not my business person. So they could literally see a person that's going through something. They're having some type of traumatic situation going on, or even that person just might just simply be disconnected. But they'll say that, you know what, that's not my business, so I'm not going to deal with it. So I encourage you, if you find that any of this stuff is going on around you, to get involved. Let's go. And if you have any questions throughout this process, let me know. Jump out there, and well, I'll be happy to answer. Okay, so the next thing, listening to the people around you. Listen to the people around you. Oftentimes, like we have here some key phrases, and we have listed, I'm better off dead. You're better off without me. I can't do anything right. Oftentimes, people won't always use this exact language to let you know that they might be thinking about suicide. I haven't had too many people in my life to say that, you know what, I'm going to kill myself today, or I'm going to be dead today. I want to be dead today. But I will say this, instead of saying like these just blatant things that will set off alarms and give red flags, what people will do is they'll say things that they feel comfortable with, that they feel like might perk up something in your ears, that might help get your attention, so you can start to ask them some questions, because they don't want to come out and say what they're dealing with. They're embarrassed. They feel vulnerable, and they're just trying to find a way to let someone in without actually letting everything out. So I'll say it again. They're trying to find some way to let someone in without having to expose themselves and let everything out. And so, like I said, they'll say certain things, and so just be mindful and listen, and talk to a person. Like I said, you don't have to have everything figured out, but just talk to them, and figure out what it is that they need help with in that moment. Because some people engage with people all day long, and they might not have not a single person ask them how they're doing, or how they're feeling, or how their day has been. So these things that we might take for granted, because we engage with people day in and day out, but there's someone out there that went 24 hours without engaging with a single soul. So that's just something to think about. All right, so things to look for. Declining self-care. If a person was looking good at a certain point in time, they always have their stuff together, hair done, nails done, girl, you looking good. But all of a sudden one day, she coming to work, just shot, wore out, tired, falling asleep at the desk. um, a person who might not have any hopes or future plans, someone who you might saw on the job or in your family that might have been energetic, and all of a sudden, their future was looking promising, and now they're just like, you know what, I don't even care about this anymore. Things to look out for, things to listen to. Social media. This is a huge one. And the reason I like to talk about social media is because oftentimes people will say, I don't follow people at everybody. I don't, let people follow me. Social media has helped save so many lives when it's come to suicide. And I'll share with you personal experience on the military side where I was and it was a Saturday morning, and I was, just happened to be scrolling through Facebook, and a sailor had posted online a suicide note and was talking about how he wanted to, was going to end his life, and was telling everybody about why he was so hurt and the pain that he didn't want to go through anymore. And so we were able to mobilize resources all the way from San Diego to Norfolk, Virginia, and to find this sailor in a barracks room, and they got him some help. So I share this story with you just so you know that when you see people out there venting online, it's because social media, Facebook is a safe place. People will, you've seen it, people will post things on Facebook. You're like, man, you know you're wrong. But when it comes to social media, it's a safe place for people because they feel like this is my area, this is my safe space. I won't be judged here. I don't care if people react or don't like it. You know what? Because I don't have to face them head on. So social media is a safe place for people. But when you see the someone that might be posting something, out of the ordinary that's concerning, reach out to them, or try to get that person some help. All right. So the domino effect. So when we talk about the domino effect, this is when a person has like something in a person's life and things just continue to go wrong. You might find that, let's say for example, a person, we're talking about multiple stressors adding up, dominoes adding up. You have a person that finds out that their spouse hasn't been faithful to them, and just right after finding out that your spouse has been unfaithful, you get fired from your job. And so now you've gotten fired from your job. You're angry at your spouse. Now your bills are piling up. You can't pay your bills, and your lights have gotten cut off. Like your car is getting repossessed. You can't take care of your kids. You can't provide food like you used to. And now you're starting to feel ashamed. And so to try to mask those feelings of being ashamed and everything that you have going on inside, you start to use drugs and alcohol to help you cope. And so as you start to use those drugs and alcohol to help you cope, you start to feel hopeless. You feel like there's no purpose left on life. And then, to help take the edge off, you ultimately decide that, I'm not going to do this anymore. And ultimately decide to take your own life. And it doesn't always happen this way, but I use that as an example because, like I said, people are going through so much. But it's up to us, like you see that hand in the picture, to put the hand in there to stop the dominoes from falling. It's up to you and me. If we see someone that's going through something, and you know what, I don't know what you're going through, but I want to help you. I know that you're going through a tough time right now, but let me help get you to some resources. I don't have the answers, but you know what? I know somebody that does. Put that hand in there. Stop those dominoes from falling before it's too late. So we can be that help that person needs. All right. So self-defense. Defend yourself when having suicidal thoughts. Learn how to defend yourself when you have suicidal thoughts. Because again, it can happen to anybody. So you're going to use the skill sets that you have in your toolbox and practice self-care and ask for help when you actually need it. This is how you defend yourself. And so we have some things listed here, as you can see. Number one, good problem solving skills. A lot of times where we go wrong as people, we assume that because a person is of age, they're adults, or they can figure it out for themselves. And unfortunately, that's not the case. We can't always assume that because a person is of age that they're going to know about this, or they're supposed to have this part of life actually mastered and figured out. So we can't assume that. So good problem solving skills are important. Coping skills and hobbies, learning how to cope effectively in hobbies. I know sometimes I meet people oftentimes in my practice where I ask them about their hobbies and they just work, 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 work. What do you do for fun? I'm always at work. You know, I'm always got my head buried doing something. I don't actually take I allow my head to come up to take a breath or actually do something fun. I'm always grinding, and if you keep grinding, you're going to burn yourself out. And so that goes directly into having good self care. Do things. Go out to the spa. Take a day off where you just lay in bed and just decompress. You don't have to be doing something every single day. Take time out and remember the things that you actually like to do for fun. So that's important. Um, Belonging and having a sense of purpose. This is huge. If you have the luxury of being someone's boss or supervisor, or if you have children or anything, making sure that they understand that you're proud of them and you appreciate people and understand and helping to understand it, helping them to understand what it is that they do goes a long way. No matter what it is that they're doing. I said, if you're an employer and you have people that work for you, let them know that you appreciate them, and also let them know how their working in their cubicle contributes to the overall mission or the big picture at the job. NASA, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Apollo 13. When Apollo 13 was going to the moon, when the space race was going on, everyone at NASA, everyone at the Kennedy Space Center, when it came to getting the Apollo 13 crew to the moon, from the most senior executive at NASA down to the lowest of the custodians. When you ask someone at NASA what they were doing, they would tell you, "I'm putting a man on the moon." The executives, what are you doing? I'm helping to put a man on the moon. You see a man out there mopping up hallways. Sir, what are you doing out here so late at night? I'm helping to put a man on the moon. So when a person understands their contribution, they have that they understand that part in the big picture, it can go a long way into helping a person feel good. Um, Engaged and concerned leaders. Whether you're, like I said again, in the workplace or at home, actually engaging with people and showing concern and compassion for a person can go a long way, because again, a lot of times everyone's got their heads up, everyone's focused on what it is that they're doing or where it is that they're going, and they don't actually take the time to actually ask people, how are you doing, what's going on, how can I help? And when you do this, again, this ties directly back into the resiliency that we talked about earlier on. In order to help prevent suicide, we want to make people more resilient. And when you are a person that, if you're on a person's team, if you're in someone's life and they know that they can trust you when they're having some type of situation or they're feeling down, and they know that they can come and talk to you no matter about what it is that they're going through, they will be more likely to bounce back from that situation, vices to continue going down in a downward spiral. So that's important. And lastly, on this slide, strong relationships. Strong relationships at home, strong relationships on the job, strong relationships wherever you are, because when you have, let's say, example, for a person that has their kids are sick, their spouse isn't doing well, and when you see this person, 9 times out of 10 they're not going to give you their all, because their mind is somewhere else. But if you have a strong relationship with that person, you'll be able to connect with that and understand that early on, that what, he's not doing everything that he's doing today or is supposed to be doing today, because his mind is somewhere else. And because we have that relationship, because we have that connection, I understand that. So that's why strong relationships are also important. All right, so why don't people seek help? So there's several reasons why people decide that they don't want to seek help when they're dealing with suicidal thoughts. The first reason is that many people feel like they're going to be treated differently. They don't want to be looked at as a special case. That, oh, people are going out their way to help me, and I don't want people to see me, and I don't want to feel like I'm being needy. So they don't ask for help. The second reason is that when people decide to ask for help when they're dealing with suicidal thoughts, they're going to lose the confidence of their friends or family members or spouse, or they feel like, you know what, if my wife knows that I'm seeking help, um, or that I need some type of mental health counseling, that I can't lead my family anymore. I can't be in charge. I'm not the man that she thought I was, and so I'm not going to get help. And that ties directly into the third reason. Most people fear of being perceived as weak. People want to show everyone that they're in complete control. They got life figured out. Their fronts are all the way up. But that's in public. But when people are in private, they're hurting. They're hurting very bad, and they don't know what to do because they want to seem like they got it all figured out, but they don't. So don't let this be you. Like I said, if you need to get some help, or if you see someone that's actually going through this, encourage that person to get some help. Don't let pride keep you in a place of unhappiness or hurting. All right, so reducing access to lethal means. As we said, over 50% of suicides are actually carried out by firearms. So removing access to firearms and lethal means allows time for both the moment of actual suicidal crisis and to pass and to decline, and for someone to actually to intervene. A lot of times people say, well, Branden, well, if a person doesn't have access to a gun, they'll just find some other way to kill themselves. And we know that that's not true. If a person is actually at a point in which they're suicidal, and let's say that they can't find something to help carry out the task, and the a moment passes, they might come out of that moment, and someone might discover them, someone might find them, but they don't have this all-inclusive list of ways to end their lives. 9 times out of 10, like I said again, it's just a right there, on the spot kind of moment, not previously planned out. And so if we can actually reduce people actually having firearms in their homes, or to plan to properly have them in their home, it can definitely significantly reduce the risk of people carrying out suicides. So storing firearms safely. So this is a list, and this is a no go list. These are things that you don't want to be doing. And as I'm not sure if you can see Randy Jackson, but he says, yeah, that's a no for me, dog. And so this list is an actual list that I've compiled of places that people hide firearms, and this either gets people hurt, or like I said, it gives people quick access to firearms when things are getting dangerous. So the first one is hiding a gun in a nightstand, or placing a firearm under a mattress. Some people, believe it or not, actually sleep with their weapons. Don't ask me why, but some people sleep with their weapons. One that I found extremely alarming was placing a loaded gun inside an empty cereal box. And so I don't know if you have kids, or if you have family that come and visit you. I don't want to pick up a cereal box and tip it over, and a loaded gun falls out. Another popular place is inside the glove box of your car. And last one is under the couch cushion. So these are places that people hide their weapons. But as a firearm owner, it's your responsibility to make sure that your weapon is properly stored. All right. So these are some actual safe places to store your firearm safely. So store your gun in a locked location. Another thing you can do for safety is to keep your weapon and keep the ammunition locked separately in two different places. Ensure your firearm isn't loaded when you're taking it to and from storage, because there are a lot of accidents that take place where a person lets someone borrow a weapon, or hold a weapon, or the weapon's been out, and then someone accidentally gets shot because someone thought, well, I thought it wasn't a loaded gun. And also, they have weapon locking devices like the one seen in his picture, that when you use it, when it's used properly, it renders the gun useless and you can't use it. It's inoperable. Some additional resources, options for temporarily storing your guns. Let's say you might not, I don't want to get rid of my guns, but you want to actually get them to a safe place for temporary keeping. Many state and local agencies in the community have programs in which you can turn your weapons in, and they'll hold your weapons, as long as the paperwork and things like that are good, or you can turn them in and you can keep them there, with the facility for safe keeping. Also, there are a lot of programs out there where you can actually turn weapons in that you may no longer want, and they'll actually give you cash for those weapons as an incentive. And the last thing is Project Safe Child. Project Safe Child, and the website is there. ProjectSafeChild.org is a website where they have resources. They show you the resources in your local community where they will help you get a gun lock for your firearm, and they'll teach you how to safely store your weapon, and make sure that your home is safe if you decide to keep firearms in it, especially with children. And they with this service, like again, they will offer you a free gun lock, so you can have the weapon safe in your home. That's a great service to use. All right. So helping a suicidal person. So when we help a suicidal person, I like the acronym ACT. So act on it. The first thing in ACT is ask. Ask a person. If you feel like a person is suicidal, ask them right out. Are you thinking about suicide? Are you thinking about hurting yourself? A lot of times people are apprehensive about asking a person, are they suicidal? Because they feel like, well, if I ask them and they weren't thinking about it, they might be thinking about it now. No, ask them right out. Are you thinking about suicide? Are you thinking about hurting yourself? And if a person isn't thinking about suicide, 9 times out of 10, they'll say, you know what? No, I'm not thinking about suicide. I'm not going to hurt myself, but I am going through this. I do have this going on. And if a person is thinking about suicide, you continue to move through the process. Yeah, I'm thinking about suicide. I sometimes I wish I was dead. When when a person says something like that, that's when you move into the care. You listen to that person. You listen to them, but listen without judgment. Don't give your opinion. Oftentimes, a person might say, "You know what? I've been thinking about suicide. Oh, I wouldn't do that. You remember this, remember that, remember your religion, remember all these things," and then you immediately start to pile on more problems to what the person was actually dealing with. So listen to them and know that you don't have to have all the answers. If they're talking to you and they want you to give them some feedback, you say, "You know what? I don't know. I just want to be here for you in this moment, and get you to the proper help that you need. I don't have the answers, but I'm not going to give up on you, and I'm going to be here for you." And so when we get to the treat portion, what this says is, I see that my face is blocking a little bit. Get them to a medical professional. Don't ever leave a person that's suicidal alone. Don't leave them by themselves. Take them to the ER, or call 911 if you have to. So either the ER or 911. And I want to tell you a quick story about my personal experience dealing with suicide. What you're looking at now on your screen is a picture of the Coronado Bridge. Um, Years ago, I was stationed in San Diego, and I was attached to a ship out there. And I remember it was a Friday, and was we were working, and we were supposed to be getting off early, and I was hoping we were getting off early, but because I had duty on Saturday, and duty is when you have to stay on the ship for 24 hours all day long. O'clock in the morning to check ID cards, but I didn't have my uniform for that day. It was in the dry cleaners. And so here it is Friday, and we were working late, and I'm getting really stressed and anxious because I'm like, well, I got the first watch in the morning, but my uniform was in the dry cleaners. And so we got off, and then I drove to go pick up my uniform. And then by the time I got my uniform picked up, it was already after 7 o'clock. And I was thinking to myself, you know what? My Friday is already shot because we worked so late. So I'm just going to go back, drive back to base, and just call it a day. And so, in order to get back to base, you have to drive across the Coronado Bridge. And so as I was driving back across the bridge, I got to the peak of the bridge, and there was a car pulled over in the far right lane, and the driver's door was open, and a young lady, as I noticed, was standing on the other side of the bridge. And I immediately just instinctively pulled over and jumped out of my truck and ran up to the edge of the side and reached out for her and say, hey, please don't do this. And as she was standing on the side of the bridge, she had her cell phone, and the cell phone was on speakerphone, and whoever she was talking to on the phone at the time was yelling at her and calling her stupid, and she was in tears and she was crying. And I said, please, please don't do this. We'll figure it out, but it doesn't have to end like this. And so she took my hand, and as she came down, um, the bridge, I noticed both sides of traffic on the bridge had stopped. And then there were a number of people that had ran up. There was a nurse and some other military people that had come up, and then they started hugging her and holding her. And I was shaking because I was like, I wasn't expecting this. And so while the nurse was talking to her, I called my friend on the bridge. In the middle of the bridge, I called my friend, and shout out to her, Melissa Lunardini. She is the owner of Radical Grief, and it's a grief and loss consulting agency. But during that time period, Melissa was and still is a good friend and a mentor to me, and she actually helped gave me my start. And I'm a big proponent of giving people their flowers while they're still living. Melissa gave me my start in the mental health field. And but back to the story, I called Melissa and I said, hey Melissa, there's this girl that I just stopped in the middle of the bridge. She was trying to take her own life. I don't know what to do. And Melissa was like, well, more than likely the police are going to come and pick this girl up. But just be with her until then. And just as soon as I got off the phone, the police showed up. And when the police showed up, they asked who was the person that was standing on the other side of the bridge. And the girl identified herself, and she said it was me. And just as soon as she did, the police put her in handcuffs. And this is the reason why I tell you guys this story. If you are with a suicidal person, and you ultimately have to call 911 because you have no other resources, know that the police are going to put them in handcuffs. But it's not because they're under arrest or they're going to jail, but they put them in handcuffs just as a safety precaution or a restraint, because the police don't know at any point in time if this person might think, well, you know what, let me finish trying to carry this out, if they're willing to to try to hurt themselves or maybe someone else in the process of doing this. So that's just something to know, that if you have to call 911, they'll pick the person up. They might put them in handcuffs, but they're going to take them to a place where they can get some type of mental health help or treatment. But again, they aren't arrested. And so when you're treating someone, while you're there, if you have the opportunity to remove any weapons, any guns, knives, pills, or anything that potentially makes the place unsafe. And I want to go back to one point. If you're with a person that's suicidal, do not, I repeat, do not pledge allegiance to this person, because they might, and what I mean by that, they might say, hey, I'm going to kill myself, but don't tell anybody. Don't put yourself in that situation. Get that person some help as soon as possible. All right, postvention. And we're coming down to the end of this thing. So thank you for those that have stuck it out with me thus far. I really appreciate you. Postvention. The goal of postvention, what this is the treatment and support for those that have been left behind in the wake of a suicide. But postvention translates over to other areas of life that other deaths, and not just suicide. And postvention, the goal of postvention is to set a foundation of healthy grieving and to safely memorialize the deceased person. And again, that happens in three phases. The first phase is the stabilization phase, and in stabilization, you address whatever is preventing you from healing. So you talk about the suicide or the death or whatever is hurting your mind and heart at the time. The next thing is the grief process. The grief process is very important because, like I said, it supports the healthy grieving. But more than that, let's say, for example, if you ever had someone die in your life, and you tell someone, hey, they was like, what's going on? My grandma died, my dog died. You're like, man, I'm sorry to hear that, you know. And that person's gone, they go about their day, but you're still the person left holding on to that and, you know, dealing with that. 3 weeks later go by, you see that person again. Hey, what's going on, man? It's good to see you. How you feeling? I'm still not feeling too well. You know, my grandma died. I'm like, didn't that happen 3 weeks ago? You should be over that by now. And uh, people aren't sensitive to other people's needs. And in the postvention and the grief phase, this gives you an opportunity to tell your story in a safe place and talk about what happened 100 times if you need to, just so you can feel better and start to be able to move forward in your life, because not everybody's going to appreciate or sympathize what it is that you're going through. And lastly, the growth part, the growth phase, is to assist survivors in finding ways to experience post traumatic growth. And that goes back to that safely memorializing the person that passed away. All right. So these are some resources for help, some local resources. I ask you to find a trusted mentor, someone that you confide in, someone that you feel safe around, a counselor or a therapist, your primary care manager, your doctor can help you, a pastor or a chaplain. When you go to a counselor or a therapist, when you tell them that you're thinking about hurting yourself or you want to kill yourself, sometimes these people have a duty to report. And what that means is that they have a duty to report you to maybe like a higher mental health agency, because you decided that you want to take you were thinking about taking your own life. And so ask, you know, before you go to disclosing any type of information, what is a person's level of confidentiality? Most times, religious professionals can have up to 100% confidentiality, but doctors, counselors, or therapists, they have a level, a ceiling in which they can go up to. Like I said, if a person is talking about hurting themselves or even hurting someone else, they might have a duty to warn or to report you. So just know about that. National resources, the National Suicide Prevention Helpline. And if you're a veteran watching this, you have the Veteran Military Crisis Line. That's the same number, but they have a specific route for veterans when you press one. And I like this Ronald Reagan quote that's up here, and it says, "We can't help everyone, but everyone can help someone." And that's very true. All right, so we getting down to the end of this thing. Do you guys questions, concerns? Thank you for again everyone that's been here that stuck it out. If you got any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. I'm going through the comments now. Thank you, Daryl, Marvin, um, uh, Vaughn, Tamika, Shanice. Thank you guys for being here. Um, and again, like I said, if you guys have any questions, you can drop them down there. I'll be more than happy to answer them. And if you are watching this on replay for any reason, are if you have questions or want to get in touch with me, you can find me here at these places, these points of contact. That's my email, Facebook handle, and IG. And I really appreciate you guys being here tonight. So hopefully we didn't take too much of your time and you actually learned something today. But I'll hang out for a little bit just in case if anyone has any questions, just to mix and mingle. But thank you for being here tonight. And if you can, please share this video. It might help someone. You never know. Like I said, you could change someone's life, or be a resource that someone needs to help someone else. So again, thank you for being here tonight. This thing. All right. So again, I'm just hanging out here. I'll hang out here for a few. If anyone has any questions, if you got any questions, again, I'll be more than happy to answer. Oh, you're welcome. You are welcome. Let's see. You are welcome. Oh, okay, yeah. I see how this thing works now. All right. Well, I am going to sign off. You guys know how to get me if you need me. Again, I appreciate you being here, and I look forward to doing more of these. I think we're going to do this one more time in the month of November. We have some other training coming up in November, and we'll probably definitely do something in October. I'm not sure it'll be suicide prevention training, but we'll definitely try to get something else online for October. But again, thank you for being here, and I am officially signing off. Good night.